This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.
So, Alf Bamford, you have been... How old are you now?
I'm 38 years young now.
Wow. So you're like 10 years younger than me, just about.
Yeah.
And you got into the scene, you were like a teenager, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean...
You must have been.
Yeah, I was still at school when it all started happening on a professional level. I just started college, but actually, I think I started making music when I was like 12. But when I say making music, it was like pissing around on entry level beginner software, or not even software. It was, in fact, I've got the game up here. This is what I started making music on.
Wow. Send it to me. That'd be my level. I said to Maddox when I had the podcast with him, I mean, he knew this anyway, but like in all the hundreds of hours that I've spent in a studio, I wouldn't not even know how to turn their computer on, let alone.
Oh, really? Okay.
I just never cared about the technical side of it. And when people come up to me in a club and they're like, "Oh, what program do you use?" and I'm like, "I ain't got a fucking clue, mate. I just say I want it to sound like this."
Yeah. It's not for everyone. That's the thing. It's not for everyone, but you can still have a good idea to make a great track. You don't need to know the site. It's like it's the same as any hobby or form. You don't need to be into the why of something works to enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Sorry, it was a bit of a deviation there, wasn't it? But yeah, I was very young. I miss being called a Prodigy. That was really fun when I used to get called like all them names, because then I realized, God, I found an interview the other day from like Harder Faster when I first started, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I was young, and now all the young DJs look at me as like old. It's weird. It's really scary. It's happened so quick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does happen quick. Yeah. I mean, that's like I said.
So I don't mean to make you feel bad.
No. Yeah, fucking 10 years older than you. I think how Andy Farley feels. Maddox and Ben Stevens, when I was talking to them, and I was saying I still think of them as being 22, 23 years old. They're in the 40s now. It's just I know I've got older, but I always just think of them as being still young. And obviously, like with you, we only got really to be. We'd never really had any interaction.
No, we've been in the scene and at the same time for a good 15 years, I think, and just managed to pretty much miss each other at every possible moment. I think, wasn't it? It was weird.
It's a funny scene. Like I guess every genre must be kind of the same. Is that like I'll have people if I'm playing in. Anywhere, I guess. Like, let's say I'm playing in Adelaide, and then people come and ask me, what Phil Reynolds is like, or Andy Whitby, or like do you get on with it? I'm like, mate, I don't know him.
Yeah, right. Of course.
It's not like we all get together at DJ club and like
sit around the table.
Yeah, you see somebody, you're walking in to a DJ box, they're playing the last track, you say hi, you give them a high five, a hug, whatever, and then they leave, and that's it. Like I've got a handful of people that I'm sort of, not that I don't like other DJ, I just don't know them. Like I never got a chance, and I guess it might be different for the DJs that lived in London. Everyone kind of lived closer, but because I was up north, I'd drive in, play, and leave. There weren't any other DJs other than Maddox and Ben Stevens, who I do have a relationship with.
But then again, I think a lot of my relationships with a lot of work colleagues or acquaintances, as you may call them, they all came from sitting in the studio with them for countless hours. And you right there, have just named Paul and Ben, who you both worked quite a lot of. You spent a lot of time in the studio with as well. So I mean,
exactly, yeah.
This is probably. I mean, most of my close mates from over the years have all been people who spent time together, sitting there watching me click buttons on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, it's been nice, like in these kind of since I retired, but like you, Steve Hill, getting to know you guys better. While I was in the sort of the peak of doing things, I just didn't know I dealt with Steve a little bit through AAA.
Yeah.
But didn't really know him.
We were in our own little nucleuses, though, weren't we? Sorry, excuse the pun, but we were all doing our own little thing within this. Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny now to think that this scene that now feels so close and it was sprawling to the point where we were both doing the same thing and in the same world, but missed each other for 15 years. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, we would have played the same clubs infinite number of times.
I'm sure, yeah. But the thing is, for me as well, I used to turn up, play, and leave. You know, I wasn't really one. And I think that's why that helped when we finally did get to connect. We were on that boat party, so we were like, you know, we had to be there.
You were wishing you could leave.
No, I didn't. like, whatever it was, 6 or 7 hours that we were just there, and you know, like we came away, and Sarah after she's like, "He's so nice, that guy." I'm like, "Yeah,
very nice."
I feel like I've missed out all them years.
Oh, bless you. We're making up for it now. It's great.
So you started at 12, and then when was your first when did you break through? The early days, it was just it was me sending demo after demo of really substandard music. At the time, all I was surrounded by, because I had no one that I knew in the actual scene that could give me some real advice. It was just my friends who weren't really that into the music either. So I'd play them tracks. Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah, you should get these signed, just get them put on record, whatever. I spent a couple of years, like the last years of school, just sending out these demos. And I eventually got contacted by this company. It's called Raw 42. And it was like this sort of talent scouting company. There was, I don't even know if they exist anymore. I don't think so. But they ended up putting me in touch with, you'll probably be familiar with Alf Magic distributor. Yep.
So they had so many tiny little sub labels.
Oh, mate. Back in the day, I used to get probably 12 to 15 records a week.
Easily, yeah.
From them. Yeah, just bananas.
And it was through them. I got linked up with a guy that worked there at the time called Lee Stacey. And he took three tracks initially. One of them, actually, funnily enough, this segues quite nicely into the chat we were having earlier. But the very first track I had signed was called Annihilation, and it was kind of like a 150 BPM hard trancey stimulant DJs kind of sounding thing. And they got Justin Bourne on the B side to do the remix. And
in fact, I think I remember that track.
You put it on your Vicious compilation. And it was the first time I'd ever had a track on a proper CD in HMV, and I was over the moon about it. And I remember it wasn't long after we didn't sneak into Riot, but we blagged our way in, because we were only like 16 at the time, coming up from school. And you were playing at Riot. And I remember I'd written on my phone, because I knew you'd have that remix, because he plays, he's played it on his CD. And I held it up to you in that little booth in the end. And you looked up and you gave me this really grumpy face, nodded, and then went back to it. And then at the time I was like, I don't think he likes me from that. And then, but as I've come to know you, I just realized that's just a genuine reaction from you. That's a pretty standard reaction. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting you to do. Like, yeah, mate, sweet. But yeah, anyway, you didn't play it.
I should have held my phone up to you with "I don't do requests."
yeah, that's it. Well, okay, you didn't play it anyway, so I found out the hard way.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll put it on the album. That's got to be better.
I won't hold it against you. So that's where it all started from there. And then it was just relentless from then. I remember they were ringing me every week to do like a remix, and this is where it all started dropping off with my college stuff, because I'd started going to sixth form college in the UK. You obviously finish secondary school, high school, and then you go into sixth form college for 2 years before you then hit university. I was never going to university. My family weren't really financially capable to be able to do something like that, and I sort of fallen off academically as well. I wasn't really that interested come that time. And at college, I was being offered these remixes by Alpha Magic, like, it's like a £400 remix job. Got one that needs doing by the end of the week. There's no way I'm saying no to that. It was what I wanted to do. I was taking days off college. I realized after I'd done it a couple of times and I never got told off for it, I was like, well, nothing's stopping me from doing that now. And it started being a couple of days off a week, and then it ended up being I was turning up one day a week, and eventually they booted me out. But I wasn't really too bothered at the time because, you know, these remixes kept coming in. But as we all know, it wasn't long after that until Alpha Magic went kaput, and then I was screwed again.
Yeah, but you built a name up by then, surely. So
sure, it definitely helped. It was like a launch pad, yeah. And then obviously these weren't the biggest labels ever, and the dream at the time was to get onto Tidy's radar, because it was just everything they were doing was that was at the time it was just for me, Guy and the stuff he was doing. He was my
was that the Tidy
idol.
2?
Yeah, all the Tidy 2 stuff. Yeah, so we finally broke that. That was like, you know, that was when I knew that maybe this was something I could do long term for a career. You know, it was when it started looking a bit more realistic, much to my mother's happiness.
Yeah.
She was very, very adamant that I finished college, and I probably should have done, really looking back. But I don't really know what I would have done with that extra 6 months there. It's not like I've ever had to use it. So
No,
not for everyone, is it?
But I mean, does your mum?
She gets it now. She gets it now. Yeah, I think so. I think it was just the timing. I mean, the thing is if I'd have waited, like, I only would have improved, but it doesn't feel like that, does it? When you get an opportunity, it always feels like one shot. That's the thing with the music world. It always seems, if I missed this. Certainly did when I was that age, anyway.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm a big believer in that. Like, if you don't get the, you know, like if people say, oh, it'll come around, you know, you'll get another shot. I don't know if you will, because I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think when on the Rob Tessera episode, we were talking about Tony DeVee, and he was giving some pretty interesting insights into his interactions with Tony, but I was saying that I still think, because at the point where Tony DeVee was he was playing Gatecrasher and a lot, you know, like a lot of the more sort of what were the big trance clubs, but he was breaking ground in those clubs, and then obviously he died, so the hard house sound was coming through, but then when he died, it just dropped away again. You know, like
I didn't realize he was playing those clubs. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We used to go and see him in Gatecrasher, like, and that's I'd only go to Gatecrasher if he was playing. It was incredible. And so that was sort of really, you know, sort of building the sound, and then he died. It all kind of dropped away. And then trance, you know, the sort of Gatecrasher trance sound really, you know, sort of took over for a couple of years. And then in 2000, when Insomniac and hard house sort of came again, and then for the next few years was the thing, is when I started in Insomniacs in January 2000, and my career sort of, you know, went like that pretty quickly with Insomniacs and everything. But had Tony DeVee not have died, I think hard house would have peaked a lot sooner, and I would have missed, you know, I don't think I'd have had the career that I had, because it would have, you know, like, I think I did as well as I did because I was someone that was playing stuff a bit different to other people, you know, the harder end of that sound that was coming through, and I went up with, you know, with the sound, you know, with the genre, you know, like this.
Had it played out completely differently.
Yeah, if it had peaked earlier, I think I would have just, you know, I just don't think me coming in would have had the impact that it did. You know, I really think that. Yeah. So I think if an opportunity presents itself, don't be like, oh no, I'll just wait and see. I think you just need to take it. Yeah. So I don't think finishing college would have served you any better.
No, fair play. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. It makes
tell
me feel a bit better about
it. Tell your mum Glazby says.
I think she knows now.
Well, my dad doesn't understand anything that I've ever done.
Oh, does he not? Oh, really?
Not
even now?
At all. He came to the 10-hour set that I did. He didn't stay all night, but he was there. That was the first time he'd ever seen me play. Like, until that night, he thought I was doing fucking weddings and stuff.
Oh, like, really? Wow.
I remember my dad's sister, my auntie, she was like, so where do you put all your lights and everything? I'm like, no.
It's always the lights question, isn't it?
I said, I have a box of, this is obviously back then, I had a box of records and my headphones, and she's like, oh, well, when do you get to set all your stuff up? I'm like, no, the stuff's there. There's another DJ on before me and someone else comes on after, or, you know. Like,
it's even less impressive now when you tell them that you're just taking a USB stick there.
Yeah, everything's on this. Yeah. So Alpha Magic days, but then you got in with
yeah, it was it was a bit of back and forth. There was one particular track that they ended up taking. It was a double EP, and as I said, the dream had always been to get on this Tidy too. It was everything that represented like what I loved about music at the time. I remember that feeling when you used to look up to things like it was so exciting. It really was. I miss that. And yeah, I do. It's jaded dog twat. We spent a long time on these two tracks. There was one in particular that I done. It was a collab with a lad in South Africa, and we worked remotely on about 10 different tracks. His name's PNR.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of hard stuff as well under Rebirth. The name he used to do.
Right.
So we used to work completely remotely. We'd never even met, and we finished I think maybe 10, 12 tracks. But this Global Panic was the name of this one track, because we were due to go and tour Australia in 2004 together. It was going to be the first time we ever met, and the promoter of the event had said, "Oh, would you make us like a theme track for the tour?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." So we made this track, ended up sending it to Tidy. Haslam came back and said that they weren't really into it. No bother. We sort of moved on, and then it was a few weeks later, or maybe a couple of months later, got an email from Amadeus saying, "Oh, hi, Alfie. Just letting you know that we love that track that you sent over, Global Panic. We've been playing it in every set." So it was one of those where Lee was doing the A&R, but Amo had kind of fallen in love with the track and went over his head, kind of thing, to take the track. So yeah, and the other side was it was an engineering job initially for Carl Nicholson, and was supposed to just have his name on, but then when we sent that to them, they really liked that as well, and it ended up going out as a Technikal Presents EP. So I ended up inadvertently getting my name on the other one as well, which I don't think was supposed to happen, but I don't think Carl's ever held it against me.
No, it probably held him out anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it was it was cool. It was really good. So once you're on board with that, it all just started snowballing from then. But there was this little sort of 10-year period, I'd say, like where
a little 10-year
period. Yeah, I know. I realised what I just said. But moving to London, becoming totally absorbed in the London scene, the actual clubbing side came far later for me, because obviously I couldn't do the whole clubbing thing first. I was too young. That all came later. I fell into that hedonistic lifestyle quite heavily.
So where were you from originally?
Where I'm from originally, Winchester is where I grew up.
Right, okay, right.
Yeah, so I mean, not a million miles from London, about an hour and a half on the train, but yeah, fell into that kind of lifestyle and getting absorbed in all the fun and shenanigans that goes with it. And yeah, sort of lost 10 years there, and met my wife in the meantime, or girlfriend at the time, and just being an Aussie, she always wanted to come back this side. So yeah, it sort of wrapped up at a quite nice point over there, I think, where ready to kind of start the next chapter. Whereas if I reckon if I'd have hung around there too much longer, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of glad I stepped away when I did.
Yeah, of course.
And then ended up in Australia. It was just completely by accident.
That's right. Did you go to New Zealand first? Was it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kelly, my girl's mom, she's a Kiwi. Yeah, so we went there.
Yeah.
And then it was only because she was really struggling after we had Eden. And I just said, you know, I'm thousands of miles away from home anyway, and her twin sister lived on the Gold Coast here. So I'm like, why don't we just move? And we were heading to a sister's wedding, was in Fiji. So we were going to Fiji for this wedding. And then obviously the plan, you know, we would have gone back to New Zealand. And I said, why don't we just, when we go to Fiji, just book a one-way ticket, and then from Fiji fly to Australia. So because we were in Fiji for 10 days, I think it was, so we shipped all the stuff, flew the next day, and then got to Australia, 10 days later. And then the stuff arrived, and then that was it. We were just here. So
yeah, right. Wow, I didn't realize that was how it happened.
Yeah. So like, had we have been, if her sister had lived in Perth, we would have gone to Perth, or Sydney, or wherever. So.
It's funny because since I've been here, you've always been in Oz, so I completely forgot that you didn't start here as well. When you're in the UK, and especially back then, I used to come and do Australia and New Zealand on the same trip, and in my head they they're the same place. You know, when I moved here, I realized just how vastly different they are in terms of lifestyle and everything. Whereas they're both the same to me when I first used to come over.
Well, I remember when I first came, and I was doing. In fact, I played New Zealand before I ever played Australia. Me and Lee Haslam.
Okay.
Went over and we did this fucking mental trip where we landed in New Zealand and we played 2 gigs in Auckland. So we did the Saturday night and then we did a Sunday night no, hold on. I think maybe we did the Friday night and the Saturday night. So the guys that were putting the Saturday night event on, they did like a pre-party sort of thing on the Friday, which seems mental to do, but
right.
So we flew and then we landed on the Friday morning and then played Friday night, played Saturday night, and then the Sunday night we flew back, and we worked out that we'd been in the air as much as we'd pretty much it was about the same time as we'd have been on the ground in New Zealand.
And it's a horrible flight. It doesn't get any easier, does it?
Well, I mean, the excitement of doing, like that big international. I've done a few internationals. I've been to Canada and stuff, but going to New Zealand. But I always thought, like you can get a ferry from England to France.
Yeah.
I just assumed that's what it was like for Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
A 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
And that was back when I was a big boy back then, and I remember, the little packets of peanuts.
Yeah.
I don't even think they give them away anymore because everyone's fucking allergic to them. But they were doing the packet, and I had 17 of these bags of peanuts.
Oh my god!
I never had an off. I never had an off switch back then. But yeah, that was a good trip. Like Lee Haslam, I've not seen him in years, but he's such a nice.
He's a top bloke, isn't he?
I remember driving to a gig. We were like Southend, I think we played, or somewhere like that, and we were traveling down together. And it was the day that I'd got my glasses for the first time.
Right.
I just got them from the optician, so I would have been 23, 24, something like that. And we were driving, and because obviously he wears like Lee's like Penfold from Danger Mouse, isn't he? When he takes his glasses off, his eyes are actually quite small.
Right. But, I've never seen him without glasses. So
because his glass, if he takes his glasses off, he's got his eyes aren't that big, but he because of his glasses, they look bigger. So
right, I see.
He and I'm saying to him, I've got these. I wasn't wearing them because the optician said just put them on, hazing with the lights and stuff. And he said, right, at night when you're driving, wear your glasses. That should sort it out. So I'd said to Lee that I'd got these glasses that day, and he was saying about how he'd always worn glasses. And I'm like, how bad are your eyes, really? Like, what? So he took his glasses off, and I said, what's the number plate on that car? He went, what car?
Oh my god!
And then literally, as he said it, this car flew past him and went, oh, I can tell that's a Mercedes. I went, it's a fucking BMW.
Oh my god!
So like he is blind, but I'm like that now. Like if I can't even see you now. Like,
I'd be the same. I've got contact lenses in now. I'm too self-conscious. You see, I saw myself earlier on the webcam with glasses with a bald head, and I just looked like an absolute scary creep. So I was like,
you look like a from Bottom. You remember?
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. Harry Hill.
I tried contacts a few weeks ago. I just couldn't get them in. They gave me 5 left eye, 5 right eye.
Yeah,
and they were like, just get used to wearing them, and then when you've got them in one day, come in and we'll, make sure everything's right.
Yeah,
fuck me,
they're not easy.
My eyes were like bloodshot. Trying to eventually, they just end up all wrinkled like on your face. And fuck that, throw them away.
And also, you don't know when you first. I've been doing it for years. I started wearing them when I was like 16, but when you first get one in your eye, you don't know if it's in or not. When it's seated properly, you're still not too sure. You still, I still now maybe 1 in 10 times I'll open a packet and one will just be a little freak bastard one, and it will not go in, and I'll get another one, it'll be fine, but there'll just be one particular one just will not go in. I lost one behind my eyeball a little while ago as well. I went to sleep and I completely forgot I had them in and went to sleep, woke up, one was just totally at the back of the eye. I had to like massage the eyeball like that to get it out.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's good fun, really good fun.
One of my sister's friends, this girl Sarah, I think her name was, and she would have been 17, something like that. She got contacts, she put them in, and they were like, the daily ones. She left it in for like a month, And then
my
when
God,
she went to the opticians and her eyelid had started like growing over this lens. Like it was
my God. Yeah,
she
that's the other
wasn't the
thing.
smartest, the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Well, it's sort I once when we were at Brixton Academy once, we went to go and watch Andy C, and we were up the top balcony part, and I was driving home, and one of my contact lenses fell out onto the floor. Bearing in mind, this is Brixton Academy carpet. It was filth. Managed to, in the dark, with the help of my mate's phone, find it, and I had to put it back in my eye. I had to, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to drive home, so I wouldn't be able to see.
Oh my God.
It was horrendous. I could feel the grit and all sorts in there. It was rank.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So, stick to glasses, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, that's a good point. My mum gave me, when I was 18, she gave me some money that was supposed to be used for laser eye surgery, but I was too chicken shit to get it done at the time, because it was still quite a new thing to get done. You know, I mean, it's still relatively safe, but I didn't really fancy it, and I used the money to buy a computer instead. But I mean, that's what I ended up starting making all my music on. So it actually ended up paying itself off. But yeah, I was supposed to have laser eye surgery years ago. It's supposed to be pretty good now, but I don't know, something about it just.
Mate, I had it done, and
Oh, did you?
And within 2 years, I was wearing glasses again.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard that can happen, but it's supposed to take years for that to happen, right?
That's what they said, but yeah, fucking dog shit.
Did you go back to them?
Well, I think it was like, I'm trying to think, because I had it done well before I moved to. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't go back. I think I think I went to the opticians and they said, oh, you need, you need reading glasses again. And then like time goes by and you just end up wearing them all the time. And then I just got used to it. And yeah, it was not great, but the actual experience it was like a horror film. Like, I remember I was laid and they got this thing that they put on that it like runs. It's like a Stanley knife comes down and runs around the lens on your eye and leaves it like a tiny, a couple of mil that it doesn't cut, so it doesn't fall off. And then I remember them like grabbing it and peeling it back. And as they peeled it back, my vision was just like perfect. And then they've got you laid and you're looking at this red dot and they're like, don't look away from the dot. Do not look away from the dot.
Oh my God, that's so.
And then this, and it's like, tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, I'm sure they were holding me down as well, because I'm like writhing around. It was fucking horrendous.
That doesn't sound nice at all.
So I was with Kate. I don't know if you remember Kate that used to run Red Management, but I was with her at the time.
Yeah.
We'd gone to this hotel in Leeds, and then they said, bring someone with you to get you home. But the hotel was just around the corner. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I said, you stay here. I'll get myself back. So anyway, I go into the recovery room after the procedure, and I couldn't open my eyes. Like my eyelids were just like try and force them open, and then as soon as I stop trying, they just slam shut. And I'm sat there, and all these people were coming in and having a few minutes and then leaving, and I'm there like 45 minutes later, and I'm like, I'm fucking blind. I can't see, and I can't open my eyes. Anyway, this couple, they said to me, where are you staying? And I said, whatever the hotel was. And they went, oh, we're going to the train station. That's like next to the hotel. Do you want us to take you back? So I'm walking through Leeds. Like, if any fucking Hard House fans had seen me, I must look all right, twat, because I've got this woman on one side and this guy on the other, like holding my arms, walking me, and I'm just walking through Leeds with my fucking eyes shut.
Yeah, the Dark Destroyer is not looking very destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Right now. He's just been destroyed. So, but I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, mate, how come you're all right and I can't open my eyes? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He said, I had 12 seconds in one eye and 10 seconds in the other. I went, fuck, I had 1:20 in one eye.
Jesus.
Like, so the amount of laser that I'd had was just obviously a lot more. And so I get back to the hotel and they get me in they take me up to the room. Kate's there. We got our stuff together. We get in the car. She drives home. And I remember that trip from Leeds to Sheffield, I'd done like 1,000 times. So I kind of knew where we were, even though I got my eyes closed. And then we got back and I had to put these, like swimming goggles on that they give you, so that you don't scratch your eye in your sleep.
Oh, right.
God. So I put those on and then I fell asleep for a few hours. And then when I woke up, I could just see perfectly. It was, like amazing at first. But then, like I said, within a couple of years, it had all gone back to
crazy. Well, you
not being able
definitely
to
not sold it.
No, yeah. Anyone that's thinking about laser eye surgery, I've just put a nail in that coffin for them. But yeah, I mean, I know loads of people that have had a good experience, but the thing is now I'm at that age where, so when I went about the contacts, and the guy said to me, "Oh, you're not far off being able to do," and he told me this procedure where they basically replace the whole front of your eye. And he's like, you know, when you get to 60, you can have that done. He said, you'll never have cataracts, and it's really good for, you know, it'll correct your vision. And, you know, he's like, you're not far off. I'm like, fucking hell.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'll see. Maybe you can pull that forwards 5 years and I'll get it done sooner rather than later. But, yeah, so, yeah, but I never had to pick a stinky
Never had to
contact up off.
In all fairness, it didn't stink. It was just covered in God knows
I bet it
what.
did. You just didn't sniff it.
Oh, God. But I can imagine taking a microscope to the floor of Brixton Academy. Of all Jesus. It's probably why I look so red.
Did you ever play Brixton Academy?
Yes, a few times. But my first time was in the midnight set I did in the main room for Heat. You know, the Heat event they used to do. Yeah. When I was there, their new little project at the time, and I played after. I think I played after BK, but before Ferry Corsten, which is an odd lineup in all fairness. But I think it was more of the stature of who he was. Ferry Corsten was playing later in the night for sure. But yeah, it was amazing. It was probably to this day, even though I've done bigger crowds since, it was the first time ever doing a big crowd like that, and it was just unforgettable. Yeah, it really was. It was pretty crazy New Year's. Should we go 2005? I think that was going into 2000. No, it's going into 2006. I think. So, yeah, 20 years ago almost. Fuck, it's not nice, is it? Keep doing this.
Yeah. I remember one year doing the New Year's. So I'd all these gigs, because like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, 2nd of January. You know, I might do 8 gigs sometimes. You know? Right. It was bananas. Like we'd have to. So I'd have Scott helping me with the driving, and we'd, you know, like sort of he'd drive some, I'd drive some, so that we could try and get some sleep in between. You know, like, because we'd be zigzagging all over the country, and so I'd had all these offers, and then Tidy said, what if we, so basically all these gigs for New Year's Eve were going to come to, you know, whatever it was going to come to. They said, if we pay you the same money as that, will you just play remember when they did the Magna?
Oh, yeah.
Sheffield?
Magna M7, was it? Was that one? Yeah. I forget, but yeah, it was the big Magna thing they were doing at New Year's Eve, and so I'm like, let me think about this. Magna is literally like, for me to drive from where I was living to Magna is like 7 minutes. Oh wow,
it's like ridiculous. And yeah, we got so I'm like, yep, no worries, book me for that. And then I could still do gigs on New Year's Day. You know, the exclusivity was like for New Year's Eve, you know, so once it got, so I could still do some other gigs. So yeah, it was amazing for me, but it was fucking freezing. Like,
oh really? So I remember that was when they had the message board, and I remember there was a massive thing about how cold it was. Yeah, and I'm playing, and I couldn't feel my fingers, so I'm trying to mix, and obviously, you know, like you're sort of riding the pitch, because we were still playing vinyl back then, right?
And I'm just like having to jab my finger towards the pitch control to sort of move, because I couldn't feel it, you know, when I'm I'm just like hoping I don't hit it too hard, you know, like to slow it down. And then at the end of the set, it was like that scene from Dumb and Dumber. So Scott, you know Scott Cooper, don't you? You know Scott Cooper? Scott used to run Vicious Circle with me.
No, I never. Again, see, I mean, I didn't know any of you guys back then.
He always used to be with me at gigs, and then, like I said, he used to.
This is the guy you were saying who did the driving with you. You're normally.
But yeah, he used to just driving, and then he was sort of manager at Vicious Circle, and
right, okay.
He even did a I'm trying to think what the track was. He did a track. I think it was him and Ali Wilson did a track together.
Oh,
It was on Vicious, but anyway. But I've been mates with Scott for years and still am. But I finished my set, and then you remember in Dumb and Dumber where he's got the 2 pairs of gloves on.
You know what? I've never seen Dumb and Dumber.
You are fucking joking.
No, mate.
Mate,
there is a long list of films I should have seen that I haven't seen.
Right. Well, that's your homework. You need to watch that film. It's incredible. In fact, that.
But
film,
I take it that there is a scene in Dumb and Dumber with gloves.
Well, one of them is freezing,
give me some context.
and the other guy's got 2 pairs of gloves on.
Right.
And that's what happened. Scott had got these fingerless gloves on, and then other gloves on top. And I finished my set, and he's like, "Oh, I could have just given you these." I'm like, "Fuck you!"
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch on how we ended up becoming mates as well, because we what was it? It'd be 2.5 years ago, because it was around November time, wasn't it? Not last year, the year before.
Yes, it was the Frantic Boat, wasn't it?
Steve's boat party in Sydney.
Yeah, the Frantic Boat Party.
Is that what it was? Right.
Let me find it.
I'm sure it was a couple of years.
Yeah, it would have been a couple of years ago for sure.
Yeah,
it was. It was on November 23. Yeah.
So I came down for that, and then we like sort of started chatting, and then you said, "I didn't think you liked me."
Well, it's funny because we hadn't really met enough times for you to come to that decision anyway. But
you thought I was still pissed off about you requesting that?
No, it wasn't that. There was one time. It was mentioned earlier. You know, when you were with Kelly, and my wife knew Kelly, you know, from going out and about, you know, in the scene.
Yeah.
And we'd all left at the same time to go, you know, in the back car park at Storm. We'd left Storm. And I think I was just trying to make small talk with you, but it was very late, and you weren't very. What was the word? You did just. I don't think you were up for a chat. And then afterwards, I remember saying to my wife, I said, "I don't think he likes me much." And she said to me, she went, "Well," she goes, "Well, Alf, you are quite annoying." And I was like, "Oh, thanks."
I like how she was in my corner.
Yeah. She's like, well, look at it from his perspective. I mean, yeah, it was the end of the night as well, so I maybe I was being a bit too friendly. I don't know. Something in me told me that you weren't a big fan. So yeah, which is quite funny to tell you that. But as you told me, you said it's not the first time someone's ever told you that. You said, was it Paul Maddox thought the same?
Paul Maddox. Well, he his like sort of introduction to me. I'd got his initial promos that he did, like that Energy at 152, and there's some other tracks that he'd done, and everyone was talking about this Paul Maddox because there was all these tracks that were just, but no one seemed to know who he was. And then I came out of Insomniacs one Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, because I used to do 10 till 12, so it was like sort of 12:15 on a Sunday afternoon, and we came out of the club, and this kid. And who, I mean, he looked, I think he must have been 17, 18, but he looked like he was 13. He got like this blonde hair and just dressed like a cyber clubber with a backpack on.
Oh, was he all cybered up as well, was he?
Yeah, fully, yeah. And he came up and he's like, he introduced himself as Paul Maddox. And I went, "You're Paul Maddox." And that was like the initial introduction to him. But then a few weeks after that, or certainly a few months after that, he then started working in the Tidy studio, and then I started going in with him, and yeah, we sort of got on great. I mean, I spent more time with Maddox than anybody, but yeah, he's amazing, that guy.
Yeah, he's a great lad.
But that was the introduction with him. I tell you, the funniest one was, because I don't know if you remember, there was always like this, and it was nothing to do with me or Andy, but this whole rivalry that the scene seemed to create about me and Andy Whitby.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's because we were just the polar opposites. I mean, the stuff that we played,
so. Yeah.
You know, like I was like my fan base couldn't stand him, and I'm sure his fan base couldn't stand me. And he played all the, you know, whatever he was playing, and I played the darker stuff, and he was jumping around like, you know, one half of the Tidy Boys, and I was just, you know, doing what I did, which was not a lot. But I'd never spoken to the guy, and I think it kind of escalated. Like I almost felt like I had to not like him because that's what the fans expected, you know. And then we were on a tour once in Australia, and I'm trying to think. I think it was me, him. I think it was Andy Farley, Steve Hill would have been there, I'm sure, and somebody else. But it was that moment where, because I must have been living here already, and so they'd kind of flown in, and it was that moment where we met, you know, like where we all came together, and all the other people were a bit like, how's this gonna go, you know, like. But then me and Andy got, and I actually pulled him to one side on the second day. I'm like, mate, I can't believe we've never spoken, because you're just such a nice guy. And he's like, yeah, you are as well. And we got on. We've not really kept in touch, but you know, like of course, it was such a surprise that we got on like we did. You know, the only interaction I'd ever had with him, I remember it was at Camden Palace. I can still remember like exactly how it was, and I played after him at Camden Palace, and we were playing vinyl, so that's how long ago it is. And his track was still playing, and he was the decks were right near the edge of the stage, so the people were like, you know, right there, and I'm mixing, but then because he was like jumping around next to me, like right next to the decks, and I thought he was going to make these fucking things jump, and I like you know, I pride myself on the mixing, you know, like if I drop a beat, I'd like beat myself up for weeks afterwards, you know. So I thought, if he makes me look like I fucked this mix up, I'm not going to be happy. So he's jumped, and I just grabbed his arm and like sort of pulled him down to the ground, you know, like to make him stop. And then he sort of like looked at me and walked off, and that was it. But that was the only interaction I'd ever actually had with him until we were together in Australia. But yeah, he was a great guy. Yeah,
Funnily enough, really liked earlier when you'd asked about Brixton Academy, funnily enough, the reason I can remember that it was BK that was on before me is because he was on after. That's right, because he was trying to queue up and I was doing exactly the same thing, and he grabbed me and asked me to stop jumping around like a swag because I was making his record jump as well. He was starting with Prodigy, No Good, the original version. And it just kept, it was all breakbeats as it was. And he was saying it was just a nightmare. But luckily, I didn't think he hated me for 10 years. So,
you've done a lot of stuff with Steve Hill as well, haven't you, over the years?
Yeah. I mean, Steve's probably my longest working partner, really. We started working on stuff again when I was, you know, I think it was 16, 17, still living at my mum's at the time when he first came over. I remember do you remember a DJ called Spencer Freeland that used to he used to play for Heat in London? It was him that got wind of my Alpha Magic releases, and he sort of took like I don't want to say he was managing me because it never went to that extent, but he was kind of like mentoring me a little bit and just trying to get my foot in the door, and that's how he kind of helped me. He's the guy that used to take me to the clubs in London to show me, you know, Camden Palace and all this sort of stuff. And it was him that hooked me up my first studio day with Steve. And I remember Steve, I got given Steve's number. I remember texting Steve to ask what time he was arriving on the train. And then I remember my phone blowing up from Spencer saying, no, I'm dealing with this. You're not allowed to talk to him. You're not allowed to talk to him. And I was like, who is this guy? How is he that Steve? Is he like this super famous guy that I'm not allowed to talk to? It was so weird. It was so funny. But there was like this mediator for the whole thing. But I mean, once Steve and I started working together, I think the first day we worked together, we made 2 tracks. And then he came back the next day and we made another 2. And then he went back to Australia because he just moved over at the time, but he just started his massive label. So became a big part of that with him. But yeah, he used to come over because obviously there was the 10 years or so of living there over in the UK. When he would come over, he'd come over maybe twice a year. And initially he'd kind of split his time between several producers. He'd go and do 5 days with Dark by Design, 3 days with myself, go and see James Lawson. But after a couple of years, we had such a good rapport in the studio, and we could just seem to churn stuff out quickly. Like we could get the ideas down, and I'd maybe fix them up later, spend a couple of more hours and get them, totally polished. But
well, it's like when I was talking to, sorry to interrupt, but it's just
no.
Thinking, like when me and Paul Maddox, you get that telepathy, like when or even just with like a vague description of what you want, they know what it is. Like Maddox actually, he said that he'd been at someone had been asking him about working with people and how they sort of express their ideas to you, and he said that Glazby once said he wanted the hi-hats to sound like a chain being pulled over a train track. But Maddox said with that description he completely understood what the mission was, he just got it. And so I'd tell him things like, I'd try and in my mind what the sound was, and then I'd use things like that to tell him, and then he'd grasp what it was. And whereas
because years ago I used to engineer for everyone. I had like an open door pretty much. I don't do that anymore. I have like a set number of clients that I work for, co-produce with, that are regular, and because of that you understand your client, you get to know first few sessions of making music with someone new, it's just feeling it out, figuring out what sounds they like. Now with my clients that I work with on the regular, I know I'm not going to pull up a certain sound because I know they don't like that. I know that one of my clients, Donna, I know she hates her shakers being too loud in the breakdown, so I automatically will turn them down like 5-6 dB. Little things like that you just get to know your clients the more you work with them. So that's why I've just culled the number of people, and it's just creates better music all round, I think. And it's you're working with as well, because it gets a little bit of a Russian roulette sometimes when you've got your doors open to everyone.
I'm sure. Yeah. I was a guest on someone else's podcast. I think it comes out tomorrow actually, and one of the questions he got was if you could produce, if you could work with any producer. And before he even finished the question, I'm like, Paul Maddox.
Yeah.
Why would I? There's no one that I'm like, I'd love to do something with them. He's like, I know I can do what I get what I want with Paul Maddox.
That's it, exactly.
And I mean, I've worked with Paul James, Mick Cree, BK, and done good stuff with those guys. But with
I love that track you did with Ben. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too hard of anything I'd ever play, but I love it as a track. There's loads of I love loads of that stuff. I'd love loads of the harder stuff. I just never ever played it. I don't know why.
Yeah,
doesn't suit me last time.
The thing about that track as well is that it's got that bass where the bass comes in, but then it comes in like it's the kind of
real one comes in.
Yeah, and I said to Ben,
different key as well.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it kind of. It shouldn't work, but it does. And and I said to Ben, let's do that. And he's like, no, that's not going to work. And then we did it. And he's like, oh, fuck, it does work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real surprise. It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, but and that all came because we that was like the Halloween thing. It was that was like the sort of the inspiration for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I can see that now. Actually, I'd never picked it. So that's inspiration done right. When you don't know,
that's exactly
still
right.
The same feel.
Yeah. So and what's on Technikal's agenda at the moment?
Well, Technikal is a very small like subsection of what I do, like on the daily. Obviously my main project these days is my hardcore stuff, Technikal, which I'm most busiest in.
Right.
But Technikal, I mean, look, I'd love to make more technical stuff. I would love to be able to be as busy making hard trance and hard dance as I was when I was in the UK. But the sad reality, as I'm sure you found out when I moved to Oz, just isn't really a scene for it here. And if I'm going to break my balls for 5-6 days working on a track, I want to be able to play it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I get my little fill once in a while where I just miss making it, and I'll do one just for the sake of it. Unfortunately, a lot of the gigs we do play that are hard dance happen to be reunion events, so people only want to hear old classics anyway, so I'm not going to get to play them there, so it's difficult. So so yeah, there hasn't been too much on the go recently, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, I was chatting with you earlier, wasn't I? I was telling you about a little something that's happened this week. Nothing I can go into too many details at the moment, but something that has been quite exciting in the technical realm. But yeah, I woke up on Sunday morning, to a Instagram tag from Oliver Heldens, who's like superstar, David Guetta level EDM DJ.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's weird. Is that a mistake? You just start questioning, like, well, I've been tagged in something. I was thinking, sometimes you get tagged in things. I was like, oh, maybe it's in a mix, or someone's done a mix and it's got his track. Oh no, this is the official account. So I went to watch the story and it had expired, obviously, 'cause I'm not up on these things fast enough. So I did a bit of digging around on Google, put Oliver Heldens. First I put my Technikal name and nothing. Oliver Heldens Technikal, and then it came up from his set that he just played at Ultra Miami. Randomly, he played near the end of his set mashup he's done that uses the guts of remix I did for Ben Stevens, actually, Sam and Dino. Yeah, it's called Rescue Me is the track. It is still, funnily enough as well, it is one of my favorite remixes I've ever done. The original, it's funny actually, because the original had a riff in it that sounded a bit like, do you remember that old track Hold That Sucker Down by OT Quartet?
Oh yeah,
big Gatecrasher record it was. And they done a like a sort of riff where you could tell it wanted to be it, but they changed a few of the notes. And
inspiration
bearing in mind, that's it. Bearing in mind this was 2010, it was basically a remix I was doing for a Track It Down release. Maybe we're going to sell 200 copies tops. I thought, well, this is a remix, I'm just going to nick the actual proper riff, use the full riff from this Hold That Sucker Down, because that's what I wanted to do. So I did that, and then now everywhere this Oliver Heldens has been supporting the track, and he's played it, and I'm noticing in all of his comments when he's posted it, people saying, oh, that remix of Hold That Sucker Down, that remix of Hold That Sucker Down. I'm like, ooh, yeah. Whoops. Can I get in trouble for that? I don't know. Hopefully not.
Well, it's like when I did I did the Kaiser Soze Somnium, which was the Dreams bootleg.
Oh yeah.
So that was like real early on, when I was doing stuff with Ingo. So I used to go to 45 minutes from where I live, and his mum used to come in. She used to bring us like tea and biscuits and stuff. It was like,
brilliant,
yeah, amazing. Yeah, so we did that, and then I used the Kaiser Soze and Somnium rather than Paul Glazby. Well, Paul Glazby remix of Dreams, just because I thought, I don't want to get in trouble for it. But then on the catalog number etched into the vinyl, it was Glaz 01. I put in there. So anyway, 2 or 3 years later, I get a call one day. Hi Paul, this is such and such from Virgin Records. I'm like, oh, how you doing? Yeah, good. We've just recently licensed Dreams. And is it you that did the Kaiser Soze track? And I'm like, yes, question, because I didn't know if I'm going to be in trouble. Like, no, we really like it. We want to use it for this re-release that we're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. But then because Ingo was still, in his sort of early days, the production quality wasn't great. So they were like, can you go in the studio and do it again? So that's why then I went in with Mick Cree and we did the version. So I've got 2 Dreams remixes now.
Right.
But that's how that worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's I've ripped off too many things over the years. It's frightening. The
thing is, in our scene, like you can kind of, because unless you're doing, Turner de V, The Dawn, like the sales that you're making, it's not worth someone suing you, is it?
Well, no, I don't think so. Like, no, I mean, I'm more careful nowadays. Now that everything's on streaming platforms, I do try to be a bit more careful. There's the odd bit that slips through still, that I'm sitting on something that's been a cover version and it's all been replayed. As long as it's not directly sampled, it's. I don't know what the real rules are, but if I have to take it down, I'll just take it down if it's upsetting anyone.
Yeah,
I've definitely upset a few people over the years, definitely, that I won't go into, but I have done.
We'll save those stories for next time.
Yeah, I'll tell you in person.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, you might be there. Maybe he can tell you.
I remember
You have to learn how to speak Japanese.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I remember doing when I did Kick It, and Kick It came out, and it had got one of the samples was from a Paul King track, and I remember I was in do you know Meadow Hall in Sheffield? You know, the big shopping centre.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's a massive shopping centre.
I think.
Oh, okay, right. Well, there's this. It was when they built it, it was like the third biggest shopping centre in Europe or something. It's fucking massive.
Right.
So anyway, I remember I was walking around Meadow Hall. And I get a call from Paul King, and he's like, "Oh, you've used this sample, and I want 50% of all the proceeds." I'm like, "Fuck off, mate."
Oh, really?
Anyway, and then a few years later, I end up in the studio with Paul, and he's like, "Oh, do you remember when I called you, man?"
Oh, wow.
You know, it was all fine in the end, but yeah, it was just, and we're like, "Mate, all the shit you've ripped off, don't start." You know,
well, this is the thing. There's been a few people over the years that have done things where I've been ripped off, and I've just really, I think I've just chalked it up to being a bit of karma and just let it slide. I mean, there's one in particular at the moment that's doing the rounds. I only found out about it through YouTube, but basically, I did a remix for a track of Darren Styles. These are hardcore artists: Darren Styles, Gamma, and Dougal. It was one of their biggest tracks they did called "Party Don't Stop." I did a remix of it, and the original track was signed to this giant EDM label called Monster Cat. I sent the track to the guys. They all really liked it. Passed it on to Monster Cat to see if it could get an official release, and they said no, it wasn't for them, which is fair. It's all good, but they said we've got you can have our blessings, give it away as a free download. So it's like, cool. Just gave this away as a free download. A few years later, I've got this message come up on my YouTube video where I've put it up, and someone said, "Oh, this is just a rip-off of," I don't remember the guy's name, but Macro and something, Don't Stop. So I searched it into Spotify, came up. They've basically just downloaded my track, uploaded the whole thing as their own track. I can't do anything about it because I don't own the copyright to the track because it belongs to Monster Cat. But Monster Cat aren't going to chase it up because it's not something that actually is of any interest to them to bother taking down because that's not part of their catalog. So I've just got to sit there and just allow it to exist and just be up there. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Wow. Can't really get around it. So, but it's just karma for me being such a rip-off over the years, you see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, swings and roundabouts. I remember we at Vicious Circle, we had it was called Resurrection. We did a label. We launched a label. I think we only did a few releases on it, but the idea was we were going to license older tracks and then get new remixes done. And you know, a lot of people have done that kind of thing over the years. And what I think might have been the first one that we did was Meltdown. And then, God, I can't even remember who'd ripped who off, but I got a call from, I think it was Baby Doc, Quinn, what's his name now? Quinn something. Anyway, he, and I'm like a massive Baby Doc fan. So when I get a call and it's like, "Oh, it's Baby Doc," I'm like, "Oh, fuck you." And he's like, "This track that you've put out, Meltdown, it's a rip-off of my track, such and such." And I'm like, "Mate, you do realize that we've just relicensed. This is an old track that's been out." So the initial release of Meltdown that came out and had been out for years, he'd never picked up on. But then when we put it out, he's like, "Oh, this track you've released, the artist has ripped me off." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but 8-9 years ago, like, what are you ringing me for?" So yeah, that was a bit of it. And then the track that, because like I said, I was a big Baby Doc fan, but the track that he said it had been ripped off from, I don't think I'd ever heard it. And then I went and searched, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, he has ripped it off." Yeah. So, I think because it was Paul King. I think it was Paul King that was Meltdown. Yeah, I'm sure Paul King had done Meltdown, and then it had been ripped off a Baby Doc track, which ironically, they're two of my favorite artists like of all time. You know, like in my early days, if you ever heard a mixtape of me from like 99, 98, 99, 2000, it would have been 60% F1, Paul King, Baby Doc. You know, they were just like my go-tos back then, mixed in with some, you know, Alpha Magic stuff or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the Meltdown was, is that the project? It's by, is it?
The project, yeah. So the Project Meltdown, but I think
but
the
the project
project
was Paul King, sorry.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Someone
I
might.
know he's got a million aliases. That
Well,
man.
that's the thing. If anyone listening to this, if I've got it wrong, I hold my hands up. But I'm pretty sure I think the project was one of Paul King's aliases. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, he rips off this Baby Doc track, and then Baby Doc just didn't know for like 7 years.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, you know, you pinch a bit here, you pinch a bit there. People pinch stuff from you. It's. I think if people are making decent stuff, does it really matter?
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, I'm never gonna.
In fact, sorry to cut you off, but
no, please.
One of the most heinous rip-offs was, so you know, in fact, we're talking about the Project Meltdown. So did you ever hear the OD404 remix of that?
No, I didn't know.
Right, it's fucking incredible. So basically it builds, and it's like the riffs building, and then as it's about to kick in, he just drops into this mental Hoover. Right, and the Hoover, then that builds up, and then it builds up again, and then kicks back in. It's incredible. It's incredible because you've got the OD404 bass line. When that comes in, it's just like takes your head off.
Yeah.
But Superfast Oz told me once that they'd send a test press in to Karim, and then Karim, the Hoover that they'd put in, he just sampled the Hoover, and I think it's Begonia. So
right.
So then, and I think before they managed to put their mix of Meltdown out, he'd already put Begonia out.
No.
That guy does not give a shit.
No way, not at all. Oh, he's a character.
He's a character. I remember.
Were you ever close with Karim?
Yeah, but
because you were in the same circles, weren't you? You guys.
I mean, back in sort of in 2000, and I guess through 2001. Obviously, Johnny passed away in December 2001. But in those early days, like people had referred to as me, him, and Karim as the three kings. So me, Karim, and RRFs. Like if people wanted like hard music, it was one of us three that were the ones that, you know, people sort of turned to. Yeah. And it was Karim that introduced me to RRFs. And then I got real close. So I mean, he was such a nice guy. And his wife, you know, she was beautiful as well. And we just had so many plans, you know, like he just licensed a couple of tracks to, we'd put out Malud, and then we were just about to launch, to release Yamamba. And then he'd done a remix on Vicious Circle, and I was doing stuff for him. And then it was here. It was the Gold Coast that he drowned.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was over here.
Yeah, December 19th, 2001. Yeah, I remember getting the call. I was
jet ski, wasn't it?
I don't think it was a jet ski. I think he went out on I think he'd been drinking. He went out on a bodyboard and then just got washed away. And got caught in the rips. And yeah, they found him further down. But yeah, I remember that afternoon. Scott was, because we used to have our office for Vicious Circle was in the back bedroom,
right,
in the house that I had, and Scott like ran down. I was downstairs, and he ran downstairs like, Johnny's dead. I'm like, what? We just couldn't believe it. And then we called Andy Farley. We're talking to him. Andy Farley drove up. We all went out for dinner, just, you know, to sort of try and get his head around what had happened.
Yeah.
And then we, because Johnny had, you know, some of his best stuff hadn't even come out yet, so we carried his label on, Fierce Technik. We ran that alongside Vicious Circle, and then all the proceeds from the tracks obviously went to his wife. And yeah, it was, you know, pretty bad time. And it's, you know, I often think because it was, like I said, his best stuff came out after he died.
Yeah, right. Where was it headed?
Yeah, like what stuff would he have been putting out? It would have been amazing, yeah. But yeah, so Karim
walking the roads again that you were, you know, saying about earlier.
right. Exactly, yeah. But yeah, Karim yeah, I always got on really well with Karim, but he was a little bit more. I think he did his own thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, well, hopefully I'll be down in Sydney again soon. We'll have to.
I hope so, mate. I hope so.
Steve Hillop, get him to put a gig on just so that we can hang out for a bit.
Yeah, we have been talking about doing something for Sydney a little bit more regular.
Yeah.
Because otherwise things will stay like this, even if it's done, small to cater for the diehards. I think there's definitely room for it. We have spoken about it. We flirted with the idea. So yeah.
Well, I mean, in the UK, it seems to be that things are, the hard house stuff seems to be having a bit of a resurgence. I know there was some. Is it Patrick Topping apparently was playing?
Yeah, I was telling you, it was one of the guys that I engineer for, and he sent me the video on Instagram, and it's just funny because like Patrick Topping he plays all sorts really, but
right.
I definitely, if someone had said, "What's one track that Patrick Topping will not play tonight?" I would say Hostile. That's the thing. And now he pulled it out. So, and it's just funny, isn't it? Like the crowd were just absolutely going bananas for it, and I doubt they would have ever heard anything like that before. It was like all 18-year-olds, 18, 20-year-olds. It's crazy. Yeah. So, but there's a hunger for it. But it's funny. It's almost like it's the walls of the scenes and the genres seem to like be non-existent for the younger sort of raver crowd. They just kind of like everything. So you can have a bit more mixed stuff. You can play a set that's primarily EDM and throw a couple of those in at the end, and no one sits there and goes, "Oh, I can't believe that he played that." Switched it up at the end and started playing a different genre. Oh no, there was always a bit of everyone sticks to what they do when we were doing it.
Well, I think that was I spoke about this recently. But he got very sort of compartmentalized, and then everybody started trying to create subgenres within. So it's it went from hard house to hard dance, but then you'd got like BK started doing stuff that was like not. Yeah, it just seemed like everybody wanted to start creating like subgenres from the subgenre, it's like okay,
and then there's like nights that are dedicated to only playing that subgenre itself, and yeah.
And then I wasn't invited, so I got to stay.
I rarely was as well.
All right, mate. Well, it's been awesome catching up. Thanks
you too, man. Thank you so much for having me on. That's been good. It's exactly what you said. It's two mates having a chat with the camera on, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, shit, I've realised that.
What's that? Sorry.
It's a press record.
Yeah, I can see the little logo up top. You're going. April Fools is 7 days ago.
All right, mate. Well,
yeah, have a good one, man. Have a good one, and I hope, hopefully see you in Sydney.
Nice one. See you
Cheers,
soon,
Paul.
mate.
Take
care, Paul. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.